Welcome to our webinar entitled Designing Simple Fiori Apps for Complex Processes. This is the second in a series of 6 short webinars in which we will be looking at Fiori-based solutions to business challenges. My name is Chris Scott and I'm a director at Arch. So Arch is a software company who's been specializing in SAP user experience and process integration. I'm delighted to be joined today by Simon Pennington, who is an information architect at Amy, and by Jennifer Davis, our Director of Product Development. We are recording today's session, which should last around 30 minutes, and we will be happy to make the recording available to you afterwards. So we're keeping the agenda fairly simple today. We'll kick off by discussing the need for and some of the high-level business challenges of simplification using Fiori. And then I will introduce our approach and how we address those challenges. And finally, I'll hand over to Simon, who will talk us through a real example at Amy. So what do we mean by simplification? SAP has been talking the language of simplification for several years now. And of course, its customers have been screaming for many years that SAP is too hard, especially for occasional users. And in fact, here at Arch, we've made a business out of making SAP easier since 2004. But driving simplification is a really important business driver. Delivering intuitive apps drives user satisfaction, increased productivity, and process efficiency. And as a sideline, it reduces training costs too. However, there is a fundamental challenge because real life just isn't simple. Firstly, SAP transactions and processes designed to support many different types of organization and industry are complex by their nature. Otherwise, there would be no need for simplification. Secondly, business processes and requirements are also complex. So to illustrate, as organizations have driven cost savings through headcount reduction, job definitions have naturally grown, and thus we expect more from our employees. So we have complex systems and complex processes, and yet the burning need for simple solutions. Fiori, of course, is not the only approach. For SAP GUI users, basic simplification can be made to SAP transactions using SAP personas. This enables us to remove all the fields we don't need and represent the fields we do need. But today I'm just going to focus on Fiori. So there are a number of approaches we can take. Firstly, redesign the business process. So given that existing business processes may be designed around SAP transactions and document flows, this can mean a move away from transactional data entry and the ability to design processes that are decoupled from the SAP updates eventually triggered. Secondly, deliver different solutions for different user communities. So perhaps some communities are best served by a different app or different approach to others. And thirdly, replace complex transactions with multiple simple apps. So instead of delivering a like-for-like replacement with Fiori, we split down the requirement into several intuitive apps. However, there are challenges with all 3 approaches. Firstly, business process re-engineering in the new world is hard. In the past, it was relatively easy because we were moving organizations to standard SAP processes. But defining new processes independent of the underlying SAP update is a totally new challenge. Secondly, different solutions might mean different processes, not just different apps. Adding multiple solutions might actually serve to increase the overall degree of complexity, which actually undermines the whole point of the exercise. And thirdly, delivering multiple apps requires building and managing a growing library of Fiori apps, and that can create its own problems. So it reminds me of a story a few years ago where a large American IT services organization had implemented HCM processes and forms. The IT guy told me it was great. They had 140 simple forms covering everything. A form for a change of home address, a form for the change of name, a form for new dependents, a form to change marital status, and so on. The problem is that a real-life event like getting married could require an employee to have to submit up to 6 different forms. The solution was designed around the SAP system, not around the user. So how do we overcome these challenges and deliver simplification in a complex world? So firstly, let's consider a methodology to directly address each challenge. We'll start off with imagining a new business process. So here we need to embrace new ways of working and throw away the old rulebook. This can't be IT-led, as the tail cannot wag the dog. So we begin with workshops in which we explore options and consider the art of the possible. This is not a traditional requirements gathering exercise, but a semi-educational session during which we can look at event-driven processes, collaborative working, how analytics can support decisions or user priorities, etc. We need to consider the entire business process. How do we notify users? How do we manage delegates? How do we handle exceptions? This isn't something that we can do to you. We can only open up your mind, turn on the light if you like, but equally you can't do it yourself, because your employees are too close to the existing solutions. So by its nature, it has to be a collaborative process. When we come to the design of the app itself, we have to design around users, not existing processes or SAP transactions or BAPIs. So this is the so-called design thinking part of the methodology, encouraged by SAP, where we design personas to represent real business users, understand their particular needs, and build an experience to deliver those needs. So we need to throw away SAP terminology and the entry of meaningless fields. We are not constrained by the current process or the SAP transaction. This might seem a little far-fetched, perhaps even like consultancy feathering its own nest, but it's unbelievably valuable. And in fact, we've dedicated our session in September to this in order to give it sufficient time, and in fact Simon will be joining us again. So this also needs to be a collaborative approach, because on the one hand you need to have the knowledge of the business need, and on the other you need to have the distance from the current process to provide the perspective. And thirdly, the multiple simple apps. So let's consider breaking up existing transactions into multiple apps. On the one hand, we don't want the cost of maintaining 100 apps. And on the other hand, we don't want the cost of maintaining a simple Uber app that does everything. So clearly a sensible balance has to be struck. The use of overview screens can help. In this way, apps can be grouped without cluttering up the Launchpad main view, and apps can be designed with common components and with the ability to branch from one app to another, so that what is presented to the user is really simple, and in fact may look like a single app, but behind the scenes a solution is designed with more than one. You might argue that this comes down to a common sense approach as much as expert knowledge, but in our experience, organizations actually ask for the price for an app. So when an organization gets a price for an app, there is a tendency to try to cram as many requirements as possible into the app on the basis that that's what the current system does. So that's an approach that sacrifices the usability and the simplification that introducing the app is supposed to deliver. So of course that's deeply flawed. So our role as a third party is to help guide you in such tough decisions, providing our own perspective. So far I've talked about methodology, but fundamental to our approach is our product Stelo, which delivers essential functionality for the delivery of great Fiori solutions. Stelo provides the framework for decoupling the app process from the SAP backend. That enables us to have the freedom for the business process redesign and designing for the user. Stelo provides standardization so that multiple apps can share resources, making it easier to build and manage your own library of custom apps. And Stelo includes many out-of-the-box features so that custom Fiori apps are cheaper to deliver or just better. So with our approach, the consulting methodology delivers a simplification while the software handles all the complexity. So let's look at a hypothetical example. So let us imagine a purchase requisition process in which there is an existing SAP process already in place for approval, vendor assignment, and purchase order conversion. We'll start off by considering the user. So let's imagine an employee working in HR admin requires some office equipment. He just needs some stuff. Probably the same stuff he's asked for before. And probably there's a small list of stuff that he could sensibly order. He doesn't want to search through 100,000 materials. He doesn't really know or care about plants, purchase orgs, purchasing groups, or company codes. This all means nothing to him. Now let's consider the process. Procurement will be handled by a facilities management team, but the departmental head will need to approve the budget. So the request needs to go to facilities management for them to get quotes and then on to the departmental head to approve before the purchase order is created. So far it's a perfectly sensible process, but it's not really how SAP works. You'd need multiple SAP documents to manage an RFQ and various quotations, and with just a purchase requisition, there's nowhere to sensibly store the cost because there's no supplier assigned and no info record or other master data. So we can really imagine a simple app moving from the requester to facilities management to the departmental head and then back to facilities management for automatic PO creation after approval. But it's really hard to deliver just front-ending the SAP standard transactions. In the traditional SAP world, we need all those fields, purchase org, purchasing group, etc. But in the Fiori and Stelo world, we design the solution to match the user and the process requirement. So that's what we do. So now let's take a look at a real-life example. So I'd like to invite Simon Pennington of Amy to take over from me. We're working right now with Simon to deliver a couple of Fiori apps using Stelo. And today Simon is going to walk us through a goods and services receipt app.
Thanks, Chris. So just a bit of a background around what the opportunity, the challenge for Amy was. So we have many contracts and multiple sites of work where we take delivery of goods and services. And we were looking at really ways to improve the source to pay and the entire procurement lifecycle. One of the challenges was around goods receipting and the timeliness of goods receipting. The fact that a lot of the delivery notes were going to individual places of work, yet the place that actually did the goods receipting was a central hub. So delivery tickets got lost. People were out in vans going around all the local depots, collecting them all up, bringing them back into an admin hub to then process some of this information. And so what I'd like to do is take you on a bit of the journey, and I apologise for anyone that sort of knows SAP in high detail. They'll understand MIGO and ML81N. But I really want to show the journey and the evolution that we're on in terms of transactional-based activity into what Stello has provided, which is a business sort of process, a business application. And I think the count is that there's a reduction in about 150 clicks through the redesigning, as Chris says, around the process. So what I'd like to do is quickly connect to Jennifer's machine. We'll then show you the back-end SAP, all the information that someone would need to know to do receipting in the old way, and then what it looks like going forward. So typical SAP GUI, everyone's sort of used to this. And when the functional people that were doing the receipting, once they received the delivery note, they had to go to display purchase order. So this is an example of a typical purchase order that Amy would have, and it has a combination of goods, the line 10, line 20, and services, line 30. The reason why this has been chosen example, this requires two methods to receipt, one via MIGO and one via ML81N. And it's not overly intuitive, it's certainly not a nice user experience, shall we say. So I'll just show you in terms of what someone would have to do to receipt. So in the material receipting, it's pulled through the second line, happens to be Christmas celebration, Christmas trees. You would normally go and enter a delivery note, a bill of landing, drop down into your quantity, how many quantities do you have, and then save and post it, which would create the accounting entry and the proof of delivery. And that's just for the second line. So now if I show you what else you would have to do, in terms of receipting the service, first of all, you have to create the service entry sheet. In some sort of delivery reference. Adopt the services. Accept the services into the service entry sheet. Confirm your quantity of the service that you want to perform. Release the service entry sheet. Then post the service entry sheet. So as you can see, the challenge in Amy was how do we enable all of that but out into the field. We did some work around personas, including the likes of Martha and Derek, which we'll talk about next webinar. But that really helped Amy focus on what the challenge was and really what we needed to do to drive the adoption and the change in behaviours around this. So let me now go and show you the actual Fiori Stello app. So as you can see, we now have my receipting tile. And what we really wanted to use, we wanted to use the functionality and the power of Stelo combined with that business process change to combine both the MyGo, the goods receipting, and the service receipting into one transaction, i.e. take a lot of the mystique of SAP out, simplify it, make it nice and user-friendly to really increase the adoption and the timeliness of the goods receipting. Through the redesign, there was a lot of thinking around one of the challenges at the moment, which is to do with when you currently log into the SAP GUI, you're not told of what you're supposed to receipt, what's outstanding for you to do. And by redesigning that process and using the Stello functionality, on the left-hand side, this is my to-do list. That purchase order is associated me with my user in SAP and then surfaced in Stello. So this allows the operative style person to take again a lot of that mystique out. It directs them around what they need to do. The functionality also was built in there so that you could call up a purchase order. If, for example, there was an additional delivery, specific purchase order hadn't been assigned to you yet, you could go and call it up in the back end. So high-level details, what the purchase order is, the vendor, and the date of the purchase order. When we go and get the details of the PO, delivery date, delivery note, description. So this is sort of displaying a lot of the purchase order. And if I go, it's got combined the goods and the services. So if I can show you services, and you should see there exactly the same example from the back end. One service 180, 3 Christmas celebrations at 352, and it's a nice ability just to click on the icon, it goes green. If you had a number of goods, rather than in SAP manually ticking, we could receipt all using the receipt all button. For additional detail, there's the pop-out button, really giving a bit more information around sort of the accounting information, the plant is associated to the job or the cost code. But again, in a lot of the design that we did with around Stelo and with Arch, the sort of estate of the page was taken into consideration, and really combining that user, majoring on the user experience. So that was absolutely agreed. It was detailed information, but put it to the side. And then receipt all services. I can put in additional delivery notes in there. It updates both the receipt and the service entry. And then the final task would be to submit, and this will update the back end, which I won't do because this is the demo purchase order. But what I will show you is one from earlier. Yeah. This was a receipt from the app, from the tile that was done yesterday, with the reference, picking through all of that information. So what I wanted to do, or what I hope to do, was sort of take you on that journey through the as is to the to be, and what Stello has meant to Amy in terms of not just changing the user experience, but also changing the business process to really achieve the goals and the value that we're trying to achieve. So, Chris, I would like to hand back to you.
So that's brilliant. Thank you very much, Simon. I think we're coming up to the half hour. If there are any questions, we've got time just to answer those now. If anybody wants to put anything into the Q&A box at the bottom there. So maybe I'll just ask one. So Simon, how long has it taken this journey? How long did it take you to? What stage of the project are you at?
Sure. So we first engaged with Arch probably sort of December time, which when we kicked off the workshops around the personas, understanding what the business opportunity was. So we're pretty much in pre-prod now. This is part of a big sort of SAP mobility implementation for us. So that's everything from the security, new infrastructure, as well as the deployment and the build of these tiles through Stello. So we're touch wood, due to go live next month. So there's a lot of testing going on at the moment. But what I would say, it has created an immense amount of positive noise. People don't believe it's SAP. So yeah, it's certainly ticking a number of boxes, which is great.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll just wrap up now. So thank you everybody who joined us here today, and of course a special thank you for Simon for supporting the session. We will follow up with a link to the recording of this session and send you an invitation to the next webinar in the series, which is entitled Exploiting the Internet of Things with SAP Fiori. And during that session, we've got more examples to show. You can find more information about Stelo on our website, archglobal.com. So I hope you can join us again. Thank you very much and goodbye.